This is question number 36. Question number 36 says, write as an ordinary number 8.2 times 10 to the 5. Now 10 to the 5 tells me that this is going to be a large number, okay? And as a result, I'll think about 8.2 and I'm going to shift the decimal place 5 along to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of those gaps I will be filling with zeros, 0, 0, 0, and 0. So they're 4. The first jump is over the 2. But remember, the decimal point is moved, right? So it's no longer between the 8 and the 2. And in my answer space, this is what I write. 820000. Okay? That's pretty straightforward. Let's look at part B. They want us to write this in standard form. So I'm going to put the decimal point between the 3 and the 7. Okay? So if I land the decimal point between the 3 and the 7, I need to move it from where it's at right now, 1, 2, 3, 4 places along, so it lands between the 3 and the 7. The first part of my number in standard form is going to be 3.76. This means that this bit has to be a number between 1 and 10. All right, you always check it. Is it between 1 and 10? Not including 10, but is it between that? That's fine. Times 10 to the power of, and because I moved it 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right in this case, yep, and it's a tiny number, it's going to be 10 to the minus 4. Be very careful with that. This is a tiny number, so it's going to be a negative power. In part A, it was a very large number, and it was 10 to the 5, a positive number. Okay, make sure you relate to that. Let's look at part C. I always encourage division of numbers in standard form. Rewrite it as a fraction, one divided by the other, and then look at just the number part, and then look at the 10 to the power bit. So the number part, I have 2.7 over or divided by 5.4. Look at these two. Think about a link between them. And what you should recognize is that if I double 2.7, I get 5.4. So this part is equivalent to a half. All right, tricky but common. Do look out for it. It does come up often, right? So that bit, that first section, is equivalent to a half, which means it's the same as 0.5. And I'm going to write it as a decimal because I need to be able to work with that. Remember, when we write something in standard form, the first part needs to be a number between 1 and 10. The second part is going to be times 10 to the power of. Because I'm dividing here, I subtract the powers. 12 take away 3. Okay, that's how I got that bit there. 12 take away 3. You should be very, very familiar with that. Let's work it out. 0.5 times 10 to the 9. Now, this is not in standard form, and the reason for that is the first part of the number needs to be between 1 and 10. As I've kept on saying, not including 10, but it needs to be in that range. So I'm going to change this to a 5. Okay, in order to change it to a 5, I need to take out one of the 10s from here. This is 9 lots of 10s times together, 10 to the 9. If I take out one of them, times the 0.5 by one of them, it's going to turn into a 5. And this part, the 10 to the 9, I've taken out a 10 from there, so there's one less of them, so it's going to be 10 to the 8. Do think about that. Make sure you do understand it. Review, maybe rewind and look through this again. Make sure you do understand it. Let's go on to part D. I'm timesing two numbers in standard form, 3 times 10 to the 7 times 9 times 10 to the 6. What I suggest is you split this up. Do the numbers, 3 times 9, and do the 10s, 10 to the 7 times 10 to the 6. Okay, 3 times 9 is 27. 10 to the 7 times 10 to the 6, we add the powers when we're timesing. 7 added to 6 gives you 13. That's 10 to the 13. So that should be pretty straightforward so far. Remember, the question said give your answer in standard form. This is not in standard form because 27, that's bigger than 10. Okay, so I need to change that to 2.7. Right? To change it to 2.7, I've pulled out a factor of 10. Yeah, so I'm dividing it by 10 effectively. So I have an extra 10 to tack on to the 10 to the 13. That's 13 lots of 10s times together. If I put an extra 10 in there, that's going to be 10 to the 14. We talked about this loads in class. Make sure you are familiar with it. Remind yourself of it, and you can do this if you're if you get this in an exam. This is a popular one on the non-calculator paper as well. Go through this a couple of times. Make sure you understand it completely, and you're able to get all the marks in this if it comes up in an exam.